Titanic. I'm just kidding. It was not a Titanic. Alright. That would have been horrible to say. Anyways, here we go. Starting off at stop 1, Trolley Depot. So this is a hop on, hop off tour. I am going to do a history storytelling as we go through the sites here. And yeah, the rules of the road, I already went through them, but let me just do it one more time. Just remain seated all times, all body parts inside the trolley, no smoking, vaping, consumption of alcoholic beverages, and please keep all conversations and cell phone chats to a minimum so everyone can be equally tortured by my narration. Alright, so down the road to the right here, if we kept going down the road, I'm going to start our history tour. There's a place called Fort Mose. Fort Mose was the first free black settlement in America, and that was in the 1700s, and the reason why how that came to be was that Florida was a Spanish settlement, specifically St. Augustine, and so they offered any escaped slaves from the British colonies in the north freedom if they agreed to become, or to pledge loyalty to the Spanish crown, agreed to become Catholic, and 2, agreed to serve in the Spanish military. So the reasons that they offered that this arrangement was made was 1, they wanted to shore up their military, Spain did, because again, British was expanding up in the north, and 2, they wanted to impact the economy of the British colony in the north by making a dent into their labor force, which was slave labor. So Fort Mose came about. It's currently in reconstruction phase right now. They are reconstructing the original fort there, but it is a good stop. But I'm going to take us back, and he was commissioned by the Spanish crown. So once they found the Gulf Stream here, they realized how important it was to keep a stakehold inside of St. Augustine. Spain realized how important it was. So for the next 50 years by the area, that cross that I pointed out, he landed there in 1565. It's also the site of the first Catholic Mass. So when Menendez got here, he was tasked with 3 things from the Spanish crown. Present-day Jacksonville. So yes, they were very close, and Spain was like, French, you're getting too close for us. We're going to capture and murder you. So Menendez marched up there in the middle of a hurricane, thinking the French would not suspect them coming because it was a hurricane. Well, unfortunately, when he got there weren't a lot of French. So where did the French go? Well, the French had the same idea. They're like, let's go down to St. Augustine and attack the Spanish. So they crossed each other in the middle of a hurricane, except the Spanish troops went on foot and the French troops went by sea. Stupid, because they shipwrecked in the middle. The translation of that is massacre or killings. So it's actually Massacre Bay or Killings Bay, and that's why we call it Matanzas Bay or Matanzas River. Now you'll also see, so after Menendez started, he started to build 1 inch away in conjunction or along with the fort there. Spain also fortified the town of St. Augustine by building a Cubo line. The Cubo line is, look to your right, look at that wall, the pile of logs there. So that wall used to actually stretch from the bay back to the river, east to west. It was the northernmost boundary in this area. This was all a walled city. And sprinkled throughout the wall were these Santo Domingo redoubts. A redoubt means small fort in Spanish. So these things are all fortified with cannons. They're kind of like a prison day, like a modern day watchtower of a prison. You know, in the corners they got the guys with the guns. So that's what the Domingo redoubts were. They were peppered throughout the wall, and they were surrounded with a moat. And it's actually 1/2 to 1/3 the size of the original. The original San Marcos, it only lasted 10 years because it caught fire in 1895 and burned to the ground. So 1895, so it was opened in 1885. Anyways, it burnt to the ground, and so it was no longer, but at the time, please keep all body parts and personal belongings inside the trolley. Keep all conversations to a minimum so everyone can enjoy the tour. Alright, we are going now to stop number 3. That's going to be Potter's Wax Museum. But before we get there, I got some more stuff to tell you. So, if you look to your left there, those palm trees that look like they took a hit of Ozempic, that's the sable palm. That is the floor of this area. We'll cut those suckers down, carve out the inside, or carve the inside out, boil the inside, season it, and eat something called swamp cabbage. Now, who wore the crack of their whips? So, they called it the Florida Crackers. Third most haunted cemetery in all the country. And I want to know how they come up with that ranking system. Like, does someone keep a blackboard of tally marks of ghosts, like, appearances, or what? But, anyways, if you want to go get spooked later, you can take the Ghosts and Gravestones tour. Or if you want to have some holiday cheer, you can take the Nights of Lights tour. But this is stop number 3, Potter's Wax Museum. You can get off on either side using the uprights and handles to let your knee hands or Harry's a little bit down the way. Or if you want to really have yourself a good time and go to the Teeny Martini Bar, I think it's open. Our next stop after this will be in the heart of St. Augustine at St. George's Street, but this is stop number 6, the Bayfront. If you're going to get off, please do so on the right-hand side. And there's no real consensus as to the proper name for the street, but we can all agree that it's a narrow street, yeah? Well, and that it's not entirely fun to drive a trolley down, especially at the height of Christmas season. But it's narrow for 2 historical reasons. It's narrow as a defense for any forces or any troops or pirate attacks that would come in, because you can't fit large brigades down these narrow streets. And it gives Spain the upper hand in knowing what corners to hide behind, etc. So those are the 2 reasons. But I'm going to throw out some personal recommendations now, since I do live in St. Augustine. Bad review. The trolleys are making fun of the tourists. Well, you know, no, I'm not. This is around town that say Menorcan owned. And because the Menorcans stayed put, they've always inhabited. That's why we can call this the longest continually inhabited colony or city in the United States. And you'll see on menus, it'll be like Menorcan clam chowder, like they have their own foods and stuff. But yes, they're mostly of, Menorcan ancestry, which is kind of close to Spanish ancestry. Anyways, fast forward, the Gilded Age. To your right, Grace United Methodist Church. Does anyone know when they pregnant with his grandchild, Marjorie? But on the way down here, on her way down here, she went into labor with Marjorie, and Marjorie died 3 days after her birth, and then 3 days after that, Jenny Louise died. So in his grief and mourning, Henry Flagler said he needed this church built within 1 year of their deaths to honor their legacy, and it was. It was built in 362 days, and Henry, Jenny Louise, and Marjorie, along with his first wife Mary, are all entombed inside. So this is the Presbyterian Memorial Church, stop number 8. You can get off on the right-hand side. In 1885 or 86, as the Grand Ponce de Leon Hotel. It was Henry Flagler's first Grand Hotel. It had its own power plant, as you could tell maybe by that big tower sticking up. You can see it. The power plant was underneath. It had electricity. It was one of the first buildings in all of America to have electricity, 4 years before the White House. It also had, the electricity was installed by Thomas Edison. It also had running water. It had a grand ballroom. It was extremely... So all of them, they had all stayed here at some point during their winter vacations. And that big circular dome thingy-majiggy, well, that's now the fancy dining hall of the Flagler College, but back when the Ponce de Leon was open, it was the grand ballroom. And those windows right there, they were designed by Louis Comfort Tiffany of Tiffany & Co. and Breakfast at Tiffany. They are covered with a bulletproof glass, but because they are insured for $130 million. And I've always thought myself, and I share this, that if Flagler College ever finds itself in financial hardship, it could just sell the windows, save its water line, and with the idea of holding back or sinking any pirate ships or British warships or French warships or Dutch warships that came down there to attack their ports or try to take them. Anyways, Henry Flagler knew about this history, and he incorporated them as decorative. So that's why it looks like a layered, dirty cake, kind of. The guy who owned it or built it was named Franklin Smith. He was a wealthy businessman, as they all were, but he was actually really interesting. He traveled all about the Ponce de Leon as we pass it. So that construction style, that layered concrete style, was copied by Henry Flagler to construct the Ponce de Leon. If you look closely, you'll see it's also layered concrete, made with coquina stone, textural skills, and things they had previously done. And they wanted to keep the Spanish colonial integrity of the town in place, which is why it's the Spanish Renaissance style. Anyways, they did such a good job. Carrere and Hastings, after they were done, were commissioned to design the New York Public Library. So they had quite a career, those architects. Now we're going to be pulling up to the Alcazar behind this Mack truck that didn't let me stop, and now they're stopped. Center of town. It was built 1 year after the Ponce de Leon. It did function as a hotel, but it was really, again, it entertained. The we have is to the left, that Treasury building through the trees. It's not even a skyscraper. It's only like 8 stories tall, I think. That's the Woolworths building. There was a big sit-in there in 1964 when 4 black teenagers sat there to protest segregation. Their brave acts were memorialized here at the statue called the 4 Foot Soldiers to the left. And right behind them, as part of our civil rights tour, was the grilled cheese factory I like. I mean, the ambiance isn't great, but the food is delicious. Prohibition Kitchen, the food is great, and the ambiance is delicious, or is great. And the food is, I get backwards. And the food is delicious, but the wait time is usually a pain in the butt. So I do recommend right now, if you want to eat tonight, make sure you make reservations somewhere, just because it does get very busy. And you just don't want, but its dishes are impeccable. I mean, they are delicious. So I do recommend Nona's. And I'll recommend one more restaurant for those that stay on. But right now, we are getting off, or we are stopping here at stop number 14. This is the Cathedral. All right, no more on, no more off. Are we all good?
We're good.
We're good. All right.
So we have on the trolley. So this is the city.
Yeah, let's go just take a little break from the trolley.
Stop 14. So. Maybe down this road. Okay, bye for now, guys. That's see you next video. Oh my god, on ticket.
Grilled cheese, please.
Yeah.